Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into NB12, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, a new government subdivision overgrown with weeds and homes left abandoned since the Christie administration took over. Prime Minister Christie hits back at Dr. Hubert Minnis. Government still yet to pay some urban renewal workers, plus a call from environmentalists not to extend grouper season as a decision looms. We've got those stories and so much more coming up. I'm Paige McCartney, and NB12 starts right now. Welcome once again to NB12. Residents of Fire Trail Road were relieved when government announced plans to transform the Mackay-Yard shanty town into a housing development following a massive fire in 2010. However, they say 7.97 acres of land looks much different now than it did last year, with bush covering a significant portion of the property. Minister of Housing and Environment Kendra Dorset says they're still moving ahead with the development, but admits there have been some setbacks. Vonique Toot has the story.
In November 2011, government broke ground on this 66-lot subdivision off Fire Trail Road and renamed it Strawn Hills Estate. The $3.9 million development replaced the Mackay-Yard shanty town, which was impacted by fire. Well, exactly 1 year after that groundbreaking, these homes are still empty, and the property itself is an eyesore. One house has a broken window, while others are in different phases of construction. Residents Exie Heiler and Brian Roll say they're tired of being greeted by bush whenever they leave their homes.
Well, you don't know what's basically in there, you know what I mean, eh? You have different persons in the truck in the back there, they truck to the front. And we have some neighbors them that actually throw dump across the street. And we don't think that's right, so we really want them to clear it down if it's possible.
It is becoming an eyesore. The only thing is they put some houses there, but it looked like they're not going to continue putting houses. But what they need to do really is just clean it down. Therefore, people can see the houses in the back and give better representation of the area.
Housing Minister Kendra Dorset says there's a reason for the holdup. He claims the necessary infrastructure was not put in place after the homes were constructed. Dorset revealed that government recently signed off on infrastructural works that need to be completed in this and other subdivisions.
I would assume within the next 10 days the roads will be paved and the remaining infrastructure will be completed to enable us to ready those homes for occupancy. I trust that before the end of the year, the infrastructure will be at such a point where those persons can occupy those homes. You would have seen, for example, in Fire Trail, where BEC has already begun the process of putting the light poles in the ground. And so the remaining infrastructure, including water and sewage in BEC, will be put in over the next few weeks.
Strawn Hills Estate isn't the only subdivision that seems to have been forgotten. These homes in Pride Estates are also empty and surrounded by bush. Dorset said the National Insurance Board is about to finalize funding for government's housing program.
And so we hope that by the first quarter of next year, we'd be in a position to continue construction not only in Fire Trail and Strawn's Hill, but Adastra and other subdivisions, including the Carmichael Meadows and other areas throughout the Family Islands.
How many homes?
Well, our government housing program speaks to the construction of 1,500 homes. And it's going to be a phased funding mechanism, having regard to the fact that BMC has been challenged in the years.
Now that they've secured the funding, Dorset says government can complete infrastructural works. However, he says it makes no sense clearing down bushes that will grow back before that work is complete. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonique Toot.
Well, Sunday's fire in a Haitian village off Sir Milo Butler Highway has renewed concerns over those shanty towns and their impact on nearby communities. Dorset today accused successive governments of sticking their heads in the sand instead of dealing with this vexing issue. However, he hopes to change that. Dorset said Teams from the Department of Environmental Health Services on the Family Islands have begun the process of compiling detailed reports on shanty towns, which he plans to review. After that, he says government plans to take action.
We'll be looking at all of these areas to determine what environmental fractions may exist, and then make recommendations as to how we ought to proceed, and make a determination as to whether or not any prosecution should also come from what we are able to find as a result of these reports. But certainly from a building code perspective, we will certainly make recommendations that relevant persons from the Ministry of Works accompany us as we go into these shanty towns and conduct our investigations.
And with the help of Bahamas National Geographic Information Systems, Dorset says they have already compiled a report with geographical data on the existence of shanty towns throughout the country. Well, Prime Minister Perry Christie hit out at opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis this morning following Minnis's recent criticisms of a UK-based consultant's take on the gambling issue. While defending the consultant's firm, Christie also questioned Minnis's validity to hold his post. Our Jasmine Bonamy has Christie's candid comments in this report.
On the steps of Cabinet this morning, Christie said after hearing yesterday's remarks, he had to question Dr. Minnis's qualifications. His comments came after the opposition leader criticized the government for taking advice from UK tax consultants Dixon, Wilson & Co. instead of gaming experts.
I'm told they even questioned the consultants. And if the leader of the opposition allowed himself to question the legitimacy of the consultants who've been working for the Bahamas government, every F&M government and every PLP government for the last over 30 years, then I should question his qualifications to be leader of the opposition, because surely he should do more research and find out exactly who the people are.
The opposition has asked government to appoint an impartial consultative commission to investigate the pros and cons of legalizing numbers before holding a referendum on the issue. Christie dismisses that, saying successive governments have retained the services of Wilson, Dixon & Co. for legislative advice in the past. Christie also asserted that as a former minister of the government, Minnis should be well aware that the same firm was retained by the Ingram administration.
And what is so absolutely shocking about it is that if he did say those things, of course, you never know who says them, but if he did say those things, what's so shocking about it is he's been a minister of the government, and this group had been retained by his government and worked for his government and worked well for his government. When I retained them as chairman of the gaming board over 30 years ago, they were recommended by the British government, who we had retained, the United Kingdom Gaming Board, to do a consultancy here in the Bahamas, and that's where those consultants came from. Since that time, they have dealt with every major investigation of every major applicant in gaming for the Bahamas over the last years.
In addition to criticizing the UK firm, Minnis also called for a number of safeguards to be put in place and information disseminated so that educated votes can be cast. Dr. Minnis claimed the government is foisting the referendum upon the Bahamian people, who he believes are mostly ignorant when it comes to critical issues concerning gambling. And as for the opposition's call for the January 28th referendum to be abandoned, well, Christie says he and the Progressive Liberal Party will address those concerns in the House of Assembly tomorrow. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Bonamy.
We'll stick with this. Coming up after the break, environmentalists make one final plea against the extension of grouper season ahead of Cabinet's announcement of its decision.